and welcome to I-24 News Defense Magazine. I'm Alon Ben David with your weekly review of security, intelligence, and strategic affairs. In this edition, we mark 15 years to Israel's unilateral withdrawal from Lebanon and ask whether another conflict with Lebanon is imminent. And we take an in-depth look at the latest defense deal between Germany and Israel, the purchase of 4 new Corvettes for the Israel Navy. Let's begin. 15 years ago, on May 24, 2000, Israel completed its military withdrawal from southern Lebanon in accordance with UN Security Council Resolution 425, fulfilling a campaign promise of then Prime Minister Ehud Barak. A decade and a half later, the ramifications of the controversial move still divide defense analysts. Here's more.
It was 15 years ago, during the night of May 23rd and 24th, 2000. These Israeli soldiers were the final troops to withdraw from the south of Lebanon. In doing so, the IDF closed one of the hardest chapters of its history, which began in the early 1980s. A 19-year military presence cost more than 1,200 soldiers their lives. For those who survived, this day represented the closing of the gates of hell.
This is an historic day. This 24th of May 2000, which coincided with the withdrawal of IDF forces from the security zone. Overnight, the Israeli army achieved its goal and brought its sons back home.
The architect of the withdrawal was then Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who at the time said the move would increase Israel's security along the northern front. But the residents of the towns and villages of the Galilee have experienced little quiet. Ensuing rocket fire displaced tens of thousands of them. In response, the IDF would respond tit for tat, with aerial bombardments targeting Hezbollah operation centers and infrastructure.
Whoever attempts to harm the state of Israel after we left southern Lebanon has no reason or justification for doing so. There is no excuse for firing on our soldiers and civilians. I want to see who dares fire upon us and our communities. In such a case, we know how to respond.
But a decade and a half later, the IDF has not been able to rid itself of its demons from Lebanon. In 2006, Israel fought a fierce war against Hezbollah, which afterwards was able to rearm itself in contravention to UN Resolution 1701. The Iranian-backed Shiite militia has transformed itself into a formidable army, which today has more than 100,000 missiles directed not only at Israel's north, but which can target the entire country.
And I'm joined now in the studio by Colonel Gabi Siboni, Director of Military and Strategic Affairs Program at the Institute for National Security Studies here in Israel. Colonel Siboni, you served as a fighter, as a commander at the Golani Brigade. Your generation spent more than 18 years in Lebanon. Looking in perspective at the withdrawal, was that the right thing to do at the time?
Well, that's a political decision. It's if you recall that there was a dispute between the political echelon and the military professional side. That the military objected this withdrawal. However, it's a political decision. So I think, in a perspective, it looks like the right thing to do at that time. However, it had some political and operational consequences from then.
The resistance was against unilateral withdrawal. Everybody agreed that if we withdraw within a framework of an agreement, that would be something else.
Yes, of course, because but then it's always, if you have an agreement and the agreement ceases all hostilities, then it's okay. However, the situation was different because after the withdrawal, it continued. Hezbollah continued to build its own force and continued hostilities, and then we ended up at 2006.
Some people create a linkage between the withdrawal from Lebanon and the way it was perceived in the region and the second Intifada, which erupted 4 months or 5 months after.
It may be the case. However, we might say that it did not contribute to the Israeli perception of strength. It did not contribute to this perception. And the second Intifada may have been contributed by this withdrawal.
When we left Lebanon, we left it when Hezbollah was a minor guerrilla organization. Today, we're facing a mighty army. Well,
I think historically, if you look at it, you see that Israel has in Lebanon, it was like a watershed, the withdrawal from Lebanon, because before the withdrawal from Lebanon, we maintained some kind of an offensive operation environment. So we used to chase, regardless of what happened in the security zone. However, Hezbollah was under chase. Hezbollah was under trying to defend itself and was occupied by trying to survive. After we left Lebanon, we moved to a more defensive environment, and then Hezbollah was left to grow up without any constraints. So that's what happened, and we ended up again at 2006.
For you and your generation, throughout all those years that you spent in Lebanon, keep saying the mantra of protecting north of Israel, did you ever doubted whether it's necessary for you to stay there?
I don't recall that we and my colleagues have doubted any moment, because we had the job to do. And really, it was not a cynical thing to say that we are protecting Lebanon. I think everybody felt that they are protecting the north of Israel. Everybody felt that they were doing the right job in Lebanon. And I think that what happened later on, that Hezbollah grew up its forces, Hezbollah became to be one of a significant organization. It shows the case. However, what happened in 2006 is also something that may look as, because we have a lot of many years of silence from 2006. So it's a complex feeling looking at it. However, I think that when we were in Lebanon, we didn't have any doubts of our presence in Lebanon and what it is for.
You and your close friend, Lieutenant General Gadi Eisenkot, the current Chief of Staff, have framed the Dahya Doctrine, what is known the Dahya Doctrine, a disproportionate response against any fire coming from Lebanon and massive destruction to Lebanon. Is this something you believe the IDF will employ in the next conflict?
The point is that we cannot look and chase the last launcher. We cannot fight against the capabilities. So we have to find intentions, and fighting intentions make the enemy be in a position where it has an experience that is so difficult that he will not try to launch another attack again.
Many Israelis are asking me these days, are we going to experience another war with Lebanon this summer? Well, it's a very difficult question. However, if such hostilities launch, I think IDF has developed a three-phase response. So the first one is to attack high-quality targets without any early warning. It's those targets that, if they are not attacked, they will cause severe damage in Israel. And the second stage is to evacuate all civilians from the area to protect themselves, to make sure they are not left in the combat zone, so they harm themselves. So do a lot of evacuation to the north. And then on the third stage, to go heavily with the fires and maneuver into every village or every post that has capabilities of Hezbollah to fire on Israel and to do hostilities in Israel. So I think at the end, 2006 will look like a kindergarten, and in comparing to what will happen in the next the third Lebanon war.
The third Lebanon war. So I recommend for all of us, we had 9 years of silence. Let's keep on with the next 9 years.
I'll join you with this hope. Thank you very much, Colonel Siboni. Israel defense ties with Germany are growing as Israel acquires 4 new Corvettes for its navy. Similar to the purchase of 6 Dolphin-class submarines, Germany will participate in the funding of the procurement, dramatically expanding the Israel Navy's capabilities. Lauren Iso takes a look at the latest major acquisition.
During World War II, no one could have imagined that 70 years on, Germany would be helping the State of Israel defend itself. But today, Israel's security is a high priority for Berlin. Defense Minister Ursula von der Leyen reaffirmed this during a visit earlier this month to mark 50 years of diplomatic relations between the two countries.
This commitment was demonstrated again yesterday with the agreement that we signed on the 4 additional German-made Corvettes for the Israeli Navy. And these ships will help us better protect our country, our shore, and our offshore gas fields, which are vital for our energy supply.
The 4 Sa'ar 6 class Corvette warships will be a variant of the German Braunschweig class model. The vessels will be constructed in Germany, with the first scheduled to enter service in 2019. Berlin will pay for a third of the total estimated cost, some $480 million. Israel has acquired a number of ships and submarines from Germany in a series of deals in recent years, most of them partially financed by Berlin as part of the country's special commitment to the Jewish state in the wake of the Holocaust.
Israel is our biggest friend in the Middle East. We have 70 projects together, and there is not a country in the world we have such expensive security relations with, both bilateral and in cooperation between the militaries.
A difficult history, but a promising future. Relations between Germany and Israel are as strong as they have ever been.
And I'm joined now in the studio by Admiral Eliezer Chani Marom, former commander of the Israel Navy. You currently serve as Senior Director at Seagull Maritime Security. Thank you very much for joining us. I think it was in your time as commander of the Navy that the Navy started exploring the idea of purchasing German corvettes. What is the meaning to the Israel Navy in terms of size? I think it's a major acquisition that they do in more than 20 years.
Yes, it's a big acquisition, and it's the biggest ship that the Israeli Navy will purchase, I think, ever. It will be in a size, as far as I understand, of about close to 2,000 tons, about more or less 100 meters and about 14 meters wide or something like that. And it's going to be, I hope, it's going to be a very good ship. It looks very promising.
What kind of capabilities would this kind of ship have?
This ship is a Corvette. It's in a size that it could carry on the backside helicopter in the size of about 10 tons, size of a Seahawk.
A 70.
Yes, and above, on the mast, a radar that is a phased array radar called a Dir that would weigh about 6 tons. These are two features that drive the size of the ship.
But apart from protecting the gas fields, which was the initial intention of buying those ships, would they allow the Navy to participate more in the land combat?
Yes, absolutely. Those ships that in the beginning were called OPVs are actually corvettes that part of their missions will be to protect the gas fields. But besides that, they will be equipped with missiles, with warfare systems, and so on. And they will be able, of course, to participate in the whole battle of the IDF with the ground forces and support the ground forces during the battle on the land.
For many years, the Israel Navy appeared mostly as a Coast Guard, quite a limited Navy. Now, with those 4 corvettes, with 6 Dolphin-class submarines, where does it take the Navy?
I think that besides the traditional, usually traditional missions that the Navy had, I mean, protecting the coastline and protecting the sea lines of communication to Israel, the Navy always sought to go out to the open seas and meet the enemies, the Navy enemies out of the borders of Israel. This happened during the Yom Kippur War, but most of us do not remember it because...
Well, there are no more Navy enemies.
Right, that's correct. And now we go from the traditional missions to the missions today. And those are, I think, projecting force and supporting the ground forces. And I think that in projecting force, we mean in day-by-day basis carrying out special operations in all distances. I can give 2 examples. One is taking out Abu Jihad in Tunisia. It was published just several years ago. And there were many operations that were published in different sources, foreign sources, of the Israeli Navy in the Red Sea during my term as the chief of the Israeli Navy.
You just came back from Germany.
Yeah.
Could you explain us the motivation of Germany to be so generous with the Israel Navy, submarines, surface vessels? Guilt, or they want the approval of the Israel Navy for their products?
Well, I think there are two elements. The first one is Germany has morality responsibility for the security of Israel. All the relations between Israel and Germany are all the time shadowed by what happened during the Second World War. This is one part, but the second part is an economic part. The German shipyards are suffering from lack of orders, and continuing to build Israel submarines and ships and subsidizing it will finally bring probably in the future more orders and less layoffs in the German market.
Admiral Marom, I want to thank you very much for coming to our studio. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all we have time for. Be sure to visit us again next week for another edition of I-24 News Defense. For all the latest headlines, log on to www.i24news.tv. Have a safe night from Jaffa Port.